Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us once again for Interesting Ideas. And again, I do call you ladies and gentlemen, and that is for a continuing reason, which we'll talk about briefly today. But you saw the title. Yeah, The Trouble with Me is. Now, that's a sentence. And it has a line afterward where I can fill in the blank. The trouble with me is. Now I'm going to challenge you. You want to be one of the successful select 3% in the world population? Well, it might help you to start filling that in. The trouble with me is. Now that's an interesting idea. Well, let's see where it leads, and you can decide whether it is helpful and useful. My name is Stan Houston, and I'm the leader of the What It Takes radio company. I'm helping people like you all over the world connect with their audience. And you have an audience. You have to understand that. How to bring your message to life and perhaps have a touch of immortality. That's what I do, and I do it well. And let's start the program right now. What we're going to do going forward, and we'll have maybe 3, maybe 4 of our programs every week. I'm not sure just which days they'll be, but we'll start with today and see where it goes. On Sunday night, I very much introduced the idea, which has been very, very important for my success and the success of some of the people that I've worked with. And that is the idea of being one of the 3%. Now, I'm thinking of a woman who over 20 years ago, and she was one of the first persons to actually have some contact with me after I returned from our overseas broadcasting mission adventure. And she heard my workshop, and then she walked up to me and said these 7 or 8 words, something like 7 or 8, but here was the essence of it. I want to be one of the 3. I want to be one of the 3. Well, I had been talking about the fact that there are only 3% of the population who truly have many of the critical and perhaps have the crucial critical success factor for their life and business. Only 3%. Now, tomorrow I'm going to tell you more about that, but I just want to tease you with that right now. You could be one of the 3%. You could be one of the 10%. You're probably one of the 60%. And unfortunately, you may be one of the 27%. Well, we're going to be talking this week about being one of the 3. Well, here's how you can begin to do that. One of my friends said this, most people never take the time to find out what's good about and what's bad about. Now, one of the things that the children that are now long grown, and I don't know where my darling wife came up with it, but it was kind of a fun thing to do. With our 2 daughters, oftentimes they're sitting around playing many games because they were not raised where there was any television or internet or anything like that. And so they played a lot of games and they read a lot of books. And one of them was, just for fun, they'd say, "What's good about Mom? What's bad about Mom?" And they would answer the question. And then they had the courage, if they wanted to turn it on themselves. Well, what's good about Amy? What's good about Megan? What's bad about Megan? What's good about Amy? Now, for the most part, they kind of stuck with what's good about and what's bad about mom, and it showed incredible openness to our daughters that she was always willing to be told how she could be better or how she could improve, and it was giving them the courage, unfortunately, in some cases, to learn how to speak their mind. Now, later on, they both went to school in the Dutch system in the Netherlands where we were working, and there children were encouraged. This old idea, children are to be seen and not heard. No, the children in school were taught to express themselves. Now, they obviously had writing to do, but they were taught to express themselves, and most of the exams that they had were not written exams. They were interviews, they were conversations. The child had to express themselves. And it gave them confidence, but it also led them to the point where they needed to develop those strong speak your mind skills. So that's a little bit of the fun part of this, but here's where we go. Being one of the 3% means that perhaps you are willing to do a little bit of introspection. The trouble with me is. Now, how would you put that together? Now, I can tell you that I try and answer that from time to time, and it was one of my mentors who literally wrote a meditation devotion on that. And what he was trying to do was say, maybe it's not that the trouble is that. Maybe the trouble is that you haven't done this, or you haven't taken it from there to here. So it wasn't meant that there's something wrong with you. The trouble is, perhaps you haven't done more, or you haven't done it differently, or you haven't thought a different way. The trouble with me is. Well, I was watching a program that made quite a hit on Netflix, and it was about a sheriff in Wyoming. It was called Longmire. And here's one of the great sentences that came out. They were speaking about the major character and how he, the sheriff, here's what they said. The trouble with the sheriff is he never quits. That's right. That's the trouble. He never quits. And that's the good thing, and that is the bad thing. He never knows when to quit, to give it up, to change his mind. And he never quits. And that's the good thing. That's the very good thing. So I just share that with you today. The trouble with me is. Now, I have a favorite fun story which may help you to begin to do it, as someone said, with a little bit of honesty. And as my friend said, I have learned today that I should pray for at least one embarrassing or humiliating moment every day. I'm not so sure I want to pray that, and I don't know if I want that at all. But here's what he was saying with a smile. He says, I do know that if I can understand that I got it wrong, or I've done something kind of stupid, or something that is somewhat embarrassing and humiliating, that will make me stronger and better every day. So if I have just one of those brief moments every day, and I'm aware of it, someone points it out to me, or I'm clever enough or smart enough or aware right now to be aware of it myself through some intuition, some spiritual motivation, something that has happened to me, I will be better. So the trouble with me is, okay, that's the first story. The story is also of a lawyer in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis a number of years ago who was having a hard time. He wasn't doing well in his career, and he wasn't doing well in his business. He was a solitary lawyer, didn't have a partnership in a firm, but it wasn't going well. And one day his wife had to go to talk with him. This has to change. The trouble with you is. And what happened was she finally said to him, "Hey, Jack, what do you really love to do in law? You're doing all kinds of things. What do you really love to do? What do you like to do? It's crazy business. You can't be everything to everybody." He said, "I'm embarrassed to say, but I like to help people with bankruptcies. But, a bankruptcy lawyer? But I like to help people do that." And his wife turned to him and said, "And you're really good at that. I know that." She said, "You do it well." Long story. Eventually, he made his reputation as a solitary one practice lawyer. And his line was, "My name is Jack." And he said, "Are you tired of?" And he listed all the things that led to difficulty for people. "I can help you. I do bankruptcy. That's all I do, and I do it well." And there were people who needed service, and he became world class at doing that. And there it goes. Now, what would you say? This is what I do. I'm very good at what I do, and I do it well. Now, the trouble is that might appear to be a bit boastful, but that's good. And the trouble is that might appear to be a little bit self-confident. Well, that's good and that's bad. But I simply encourage you today to take some time. If you want to be one of the self-select 3%, look at yourself right now. Be honest enough to say, the trouble with me is, and like the sheriff, that's what's good about him. And perhaps from time to time, that's what's bad about him. He never quits. Now, I'll tell you, that's part of my trouble too. I have a hard time quitting. I'm doing many things that may or may not succeed, but I do know that most people would have given up on them, but not me. The trouble with me is, just like the sheriff, I never quit. And that's what's good, and that's what's bad, and that's my trouble. What's your trouble? And maybe I can help you. Just some interesting ideas for your thought and consideration. Again, one of my favorite lines is just what I said. An interesting idea for your thought and consideration. And that actually comes from an old, showing my age, TV series that you ought to watch called The Twilight Zone. And that very much summarized where it was all about. Things that you weren't sure of, things that were different, something in the twilight, and perhaps being able to live in the tension of a twilight zone is again one of the marks of the 3%ers. So I'm going to encourage you. I can help you. So if I can do that, reach out to me at stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com. And what I'm very good at is helping you become one of the 3%. What I'm very good at is helping you get your message out and learn how to do the radio and video and the TV work that you have to do. And I'm very good at helping you market and sell you. That's right. Remember, before people will buy your stuff or your services, they have to buy you. And I'll teach you how to live the marketing life so that people will buy you. All the best and blessings to you. Yes, I mean that. The trouble with you is, but it's okay. Blessings to you. Press on. Remember, we are now, we are looking forward. Looking forward. Not back. Not right now. Forward. Looking and leaning forward. Bye for now.